Hey guys, Pride here. Check it out. I have a Danger Dark World deck profile for you guys. Honestly, I was looking at my videos yesterday and I realized I have not given you guys an update on this, and it's one of my favorite decks of all time. And you know, if I find a favorite deck, I do a lot of deck profiles on them, showing you guys my progress, how I've added it over the course. And yeah, Danger Dark World is probably one of my top 3 favorite decks of all time. Anyway, let's get the show on the road. We got my favorite Danger Bigfoot. When this card is discarded, basically, you could destroy target and show one face-up card in the field. Now they all have the face-up card. Now they all have the beginning first effect. All that's the same. You reveal it, and your opponent hits it. It gets discarded to the graveyard, thus getting its discarded effect to destroy the card. But if they hit anything other than this card, the card they hit gets discarded, and you get to summon this and draw one card. The best part is the draw of the card is resolution. Meaning, if they want to ash this, they have to ash it on the reveal of it. And even then, even if they ash it, you could just do it again. Like, it's not stopping you from revealing it. None of that is hard ones. Only the second effect is the hard ones. Next up, we have 2 Danger Thunderbird. Like Bigfoot, this card when discarded destroys a card. Except Bigfoot destroys a face-up one. Thunderbird destroys a face-down card. We have the Stratus. Danger Nessie. When this card is discarded, it lets you search any danger monster aside from Nessie. Next up, Danger Mothman. This card is a must 3 of. When this card is discarded, both players draw one card and discard one. The best part about this card, no matter what happens, if you summon it or discard it, you still get to draw a card. For the 1-ups, I'll run 1 Tsuchinoko because this card, when it's discarded, just summons itself. 1 Danger Jackalope. When this card is discarded, you can special summon a danger monster from your deck in defense mode. It does say besides Jackalope, but this card's limited to 1, so you only run 1 Jackalope. For the final one, we got the Monster Reborn, Danger Chupacabra, or as I like to call him Chupa. Anyway. When this card is discarded, it just basically summons a danger monster from your graveyard aside from Chupa. Anyway. Now for the Dark World monsters, we got Grapha, the Lord of Dark World. When this card is discarded, basically you could target and destroy any card your opponent has. That's really the only effect of this card you use. Or at least the only one I use. Next up, we have 2 of the new Rainbow Monster. Well, not new, it's been a few months. Anyway, this card, actually, I do like to use both of its effects if I can. First effect is, when this card is discarded, you search any level 5 or higher Dark World monster except Rainbow and add it to your hand. Its second effect is, if it's discarded by an opponent's card effect, not only do you still get that search for the level 5 or higher, but you take a level 4 or lower Dark World monster from your deck and summon it to either your side or your opponent's side. So depending on how good your hand is or what you may need, that will dictate which side and what monster you choose to summon, you know? Next up, we got 3 Genta, which is basically the field spell searcher. Honestly, 1 Genta alone gives you 2 field spells. What you do is, say you're holding Grapha and Genta, use Genta, search the field spell. Use field spell to banish Genta, then discard this, draw your card. This, since it was banished and you control a face of Dark World card, you can actually summon this card back to your field, bounce it back to your hand, summon this from your graveyard, and then use this effect to search another field spell. Which is awesome. Next up, we got the Stratus of the Dark Worlds, Snow. This card literally can, this card's pretty old, so it actually lets you search any Dark World card, well, except Dark Corridor, because that's the only card you can't search. But yeah, including herself. Next up, we got Silva, which is detrimental for the hand loop. When this card is discarded, you can just summon itself. But if it's discarded by opponent's card effect, not only do you get to summon itself, but you can also force your opponent to send 2 cards in their hand, exactly 2. It can't be any more than that, or any less. So if they're holding 1, that part of the effect will not work. Either way, they take 2 cards in their hand and send them to the bottom of their deck. And it's their choice. which is why you want to do this twice, so that way they're forced to give up 4 cards. Next up, Ceruli, which is honestly the card you want to use, because when it's discarded, it summons itself to your opponent's side of the field, and then its effect forces you to discard another card. And since it's on your opponent's side of the field, this counts as an opponent's card effect. Meaning you discard Silva, summon Silva, and goodbye 2 cards. You then bounce Ceruli back to your hand and then redo the combo. Now for the final card of the hand loop, and plus draw 2, discard 1, we have 3 Gen and 1 Ken. Basically, if you summon 1, you then can summon the other, then draw 2 cards, discard 1, and then the other one, if you do it in the reverse order, your opponent just gets rid of the last card. Next up, we have, we're also onto the spell, by the way. 3 of the field spell, the Gates of the Dark World. Discard, you banish 1 fiend monster from your graveyard for cost. If your opponent has an Astrid or whatever, you discard another card in your hand and draw 1 card. Like I said, Dark Corridor, and like I said before, this is the only Dark World card that cannot be searched, which is why we run multiple, even though you can only use 1 copy of these things per turn. Anyway, it lets you search any Dark World monster and add to your hand, and then you discard 1 card from your hand. You can even discard the Dark World monster you added. Next up, Dark World Session. Honestly, this card can actually be used to summon any Fiend Fusion, but if you summon a specific Dark World Fusion, you can actually banish materials from your graveyard. And while this card's in your graveyard, you can just add it back to your hand and discard 1 Dark World monster to replace it, basically. Next up, we got Dark World Archives. First effect is you discard 1 Dark World monster, and all Dark World monsters you currently control on board will gain attack points equal to that monster's level multiplied by 100. And its other effect is, if a Dark World monster is discarded by a Dark World effect, you can basically just draw 2 and discard 1. And for the final card, Card Destruction, which is honestly the MVP of the deck. Now for the extra deck. We have 2 of the Grapha Fusion. This card's first effect is actually technically an Omni Negate. Basically, if your opponent activates an effect, so long as it's a normal spell, regular trap, whatever, or monster effect, you can change the card text to forcing you to discard a card. And since it will technically be an opponent's card effect discarding it, if you discard a Dark World monster, you get access to all of its effects. Next up, we got Abyss Dweller. Since basically it's prevalent that there's a lot of fire decks that revolve around the graveyard. For monster negation, we got 1 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord. Spell negation, we got Hope Harbinger. Next up, we have the new number 1 Infection Buzz King. Basically, the only reason I have this card in my deck because it's a generic rank 8 Xyz monster. And when you summon it, you can look at your opponent's extra deck and send 1 card from there to the graveyard. Number 60, Dugar's the Timeless. This card, I only use 1 of its effects. It's the first one where you draw 2, discard 1, but in exchange you skip your next draw phase. Ooh, real shame with this deck, huh? Next up, for some burn and draw power, we got Coach King Giant Trainer. And the next 2 cards are basically just burned power, but anyway. For Coach King Giant Trainer, you can use this effect up to thrice per turn. You detach 1 material, draw 1 card. If it's a monster, inflict your opponent with 800 points of damage. If it's not a monster, nothing happens. Either way, you get to keep the card you drew. So that's 3 draws off this 1 card. And like I said, next 2 cards are just for burn. We have Red Eyes Flare Metal and Gaga Cowboy. Never know when you need to burn for game, you know? And now for the links. First up, we have 1 Security Dragon. This card is basically what you want to use to bounce your Ceruli from your opponent's side to board back to your hand, you know? Next up, we have one of my favorite links in the entire game. BLS, because literally this card's an MVP. Next up, for some more draw power, and for an extra summon. So you use a Skull Dread. And just in case I need some more destruction on board, Unchained Abomination. And finally, for more monster negation, I run 1 Appaloosa the Bow Goddess. Anyway, that was the Danger Dark World deck profile. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.